Gotta get out of my seat. Get out of my seat, Thor.
You will stay with me, Klink.
You gotta get out of my seat. Come on.
Come here.
You know, fine, I'll give you a piece of chicken.
I get what I want. That's what I want.
Yeah, now he's coming.
That's what I want. That's what I want.
Want some steak?
Want.
Yeah, you want some steak, don't you?
Well, you not want to pick him up? Move him? You coward!
Dude, whenever you give him a treat, he looks back at you. He's like he'll take it, and then before he walks away, he'll go.
Dude, I think it's all big dog. Like that's what Buster does. I give him a bone. He goes.
Yeah, it's like agreement between men.
It's like respect.
Shit. Alright, so continuing our movie news, Killer Klowns from Outer Space may have a future in the darkness.
Killer Klowns from outer space. Do you have a ray gun, Ray Charles? You were blind, but you could. I don't know. Killer Klowns from Outer Space Part 2 is possibly going to happen. Maybe one day MGM is talking with the brothers, or one of the brothers of the creators of Killer Klowns from Outer Space.
The Kyoto brothers.
It's got some like it's cool, man, because it's got some resurgence in it. Like there was a lot of people that didn't like really care for it. I almost felt like MGM was like, "Yeah, I'm married into it." You married into it. He's like, "Yeah, I got that shit. I don't really care about it." But I think that because people have been watching it on Netflix recently, and there's a lot of older fans like us that love it, and now it's having a kind of a resurgence. They're interested, or they're talking about maybe making it a TV show, or maybe even making a sequel with it, which is fucking great news.
Yeah.
That's one of those movies that deserve a fucking sequel.
It does, and they didn't mention specifically what they wanted to do with it yet.
Oh.
What he said was, he was like, well, before there was no interest in it, but now it's on streaming, it's on Netflix, it's been on Amazon Prime for a while, but now it's on Netflix as well, and apparently for a while, I guess they just had no interest in doing a sequel to it, but what they said was that there is interest from MGM now to do something with it. I don't know if it's a sequel or a remake or whatever, but what the Kyoto brothers said was, there was like, we could do something, like we don't have to direct it, we could just produce it if they wanted to bring in a new filmmaker. What I found interesting about the whole thing was they said, and again, this is when the it's over with, they said, we'll look at it and see what happens.
It's just called the pandemic.
But what I like saying blah 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 blah, but when it's
pandemic, Panama.
When it's over, when it's over with, what I found interesting that they said was maybe they want to do something more modern with it. Maybe actually make it scary. Like, and if you think about that, that's the most interesting thing about this whole thing. If they take the Killer Klowns from Outer Space story, right?
Yeah.
And the first one was dark comedy. It was satirical,
yeah.
And it was, you know, it was fun, but it was horror, but it was also
But it's
funny
also satirical
and weird. Yeah. Fucking can't ever do it right.
It's satirical in the ancient hieroglyphs.
But what would be really interesting, and I'm actually really down for this, because you've got the perfect dark comedy version of Killer Klowns from Outer Space.
It's already good.
It exists.
Yeah,
it's perfect. So if they took that with the clown thing that happened a couple years ago, where people were dressed as clowns coming out in the streets and all this crazy shit that was going on.
Yeah, they might have missed the opportunity on that. They could have really probably banked on that shit.
But could you imagine if they took that, and I left the fridge open so it's beeping, and I'll get to that in a second. God damn it, Sheila.
Engage.
But
we're under attack from the Klingons.
Could you imagine if they took that same story and they did a remake, but they did dead serious, and they made it scary as fuck?
I don't want that.
I do.
No,
I think that would
because
be fucked up.
I feel like the idea of what Killer Klowns from Outer Space is it's a black comedy. It's meant to be funny. It's meant to be visceral in its own way, and that's actually what they said. They said that a lot of fans have come out with their own versions of it, or they've talked with people. They have a lot more visceral ideas, things that they would go further than they ever would even imagine. But they wanted to make fun of it, and not make fun of it on purpose, just because the material itself lends itself to be a comedy, a black comedy. I think what I would rather have them do is either, because these guys seem great. Like the brothers seem awesome. Because they're not like overly ownership of their shit. They know they know that the fans are the reason why it's buoyed for so long, and that they loved it, and MGM pretty much like treated it like a redheaded stepchild and fuck you. But they know that, and they realize that, and they want to work with other creators to maybe bring a new vision to it. But I think that ultimately what they want to do is to keep it intact, the core of it, and that would appease the other fans, or the fans of the original, but maybe bring a different kind of spin to it. If you bring too serious of a movie with it, the movie itself is so fucking like goofy and weird. It's got some gore in it, not much, but it's got some weirdness. if you put too much serious in it, like what I would feel, and I know it's popular, and I know people fucking love it, and like, oh, let me fuck the dick of Teen Wolf on MTV. I was not a fan of it because I like Teen Wolf with Michael J. Fox, like the old school Teen Wolf when the movie came out, because it was a lighthearted kind of werewolf movie. It was kind of, you know, family fun, whatever, and a comedy. And then they took Teen Wolf on MTV and they made it serious and dark, and it was like fucking, you know, sparkly teenagers, but they had, you know, pubic hair all over their face because they're werewolves. But I would rather not see that happen with something like Killer Klowns from Outer Space Part 2. What I'd rather see them do is keep it intact as far as like have the black comedy part of it in the core, and then have some visceral kills and shit. Make it scary. Yeah, absolutely. Make it fucking like intimidating. Make some atmospheric moments, but keep it generally core level, like funny. Like have maybe a main character. If you're gonna do a TV show, maybe a couple of main characters like the goofy fucking like people that did the ice cream shit. Have those be the protagonists in it.
I think you can always have a little bit of black comedy in there. I think that's fine, even if you have a really scary movie. But I can't help but think like we said before, like the movie's so weird and out there, and it's original as fuck, and it's its own thing. Like I don't think there is a single movie in the world that feels like Killer Klowns from Outer Space does.
Good.
So you have that there. It's like the argument, like, why remake them good? Why are people remaking good movies? Remake bad movies and take what sucked and erase it and take what's good and make that good, or leave that part alone. With Killer Klowns from Outer Space, the dark comedy, all that shit, they did it perfectly.
Yeah.
But it was also, at a cerebral level, scary as fuck. Like, when you're just sitting back and looking at it, like, even though they're joking and this is fun, I'm still scared of it.
It's freaky.
It's fucking weird.
It's freaky.
So
Yeah.
I say, you already have the perfect comedy version of it. Now take it and make a fucking dark-ass, scary fucking version of it, and I think you could blow people's goddamn mind.
I mean, I would do that if I don't know. I feel like it would corrupt.
Fuck me up, Charles!
It would corrupt the main idea of the movie itself anyway. The reason why that movie did so well, I think, in the 80s was because it had like such a tongue-in-cheek thing going on with it. And
would that do so well today, though?
Yeah, I think it would, and I think that it's sorely missed.
But what's
I think
the
there's
point?
a lot. I mean, when's the last
there.
time? I'm saying because if you're gonna, because they're not talking about, they talk about remaking it, but possibly they want to do a sequel to it or a TV show, but keep it what it was at its core. I think it's sorely missed in today's market. Like, there's not a lot of movies like that. Like, Your Next was close. Like, it had a black comedy kind of feel going through it,
but
and things like that.
How do you get the mainstream audience to go to the theater? Comedies are dead.
Because what I think, yeah, that's true, but I think that because it's still going to be horror. It's going to be horror comedy. I think people would be lured in by that. Shaun of the Dead is a perfect example of that. Shaun of the Dead was a horror comedy. It was funny, and it was great, and it had a good bonding friendship thing going on, and it also had like horror elements to it as well. Great makeup effects and cool death scenes.
But could you imagine like a marketing thing? Like, and Shaun of the Dead, I don't know how good it did at the box office. It feels like one of those movies that probably did better on home video. But like, from a marketing standpoint, if you own this property, if you're MGM, who's just who they're talking to about it, and you go, what if we promote this movie as dark and scary as fuck, and it's a clown movie, and it's an IP that people know, and it'll get people to go and buy the shit from the movie and all that shit like that. But you promote it, and the trailers are dark, and they're fucking freaky, and they're scary, and you've got these clowns. I mean, honestly, you could take that movie and take a couple things out of it, and change up a few things, then you can make that movie really scary.
Yeah, but I just don't see the point of doing that because I think the reason, again, why it was so popular was because of the comedy in it. And I think that if you make it scary and dark, and like, you know, and like the only time I want my darkness is on my toast. But no, but you know, DC, I like DC. Like, my comic book movies to be a little bit more edgier, a little bit more grittier. That's okay, and I don't mind that. But when movies like this come around, like that were already established in the late '80s as a black comedy kind of film, and then you're trying to remake it to make it something, I don't know, more visceral and evil.
I would rather have a soul sister to it, though. Like, I'd rather have a soul sister.
Oh, what are you, trained? Are you the grip trained? Hey, soul sister.
A sequel in nature. Like, I would much rather have the irreverent, funny, wacky, fucking weird Killer Klowns from Outer Space movie, and then have a remake that is fucking dark and scary as fuck, and they could almost, like I said, be soul sisters to that. Then have someone do a fucking try to remake the first movie, and it just not have the same punch to it.
Honestly, I don't even know. You know, at this point, I think that what they should probably move forward with is not even a remake. I think that you should either move with a sequel with the brothers writing the sequel, or do a TV show. Fuck the remake, and fuck the remake fucking nation.
Even if you do a sequel, it's gonna feel like a remake at this point.
No, it won't. If you get the guys that,
how many years later we're trying to do this again, it's not gonna
be the same thing. Those guys, because at the end of the movie, the Killer Klowns, they went back to their fucking planet.
But
or whatever.
Can you tell me that you're honestly more interested in the story of the characters and where they went from there than you are in just the whole irreverence and craziness?
No, I like liked the story. I thought it was a good fucking weird.
That's what I'm saying. The story, the idea of it, the feel of it is what you want.
But I don't care.
You're not going to get a sequel for those characters.
But I don't care if it's
not going to be Halloween.
I don't care if it's goddamn Nosferatu fucking scary. Like, I mean, what I would rather get, like, Dusk Till Dawn is a perfect example, another one of horror comedy in my opinion. It had good visceral kills in it and it had a badass action sequences, but it would also be considered to me black comedy as well. And I think that you could maybe inject that into something.
But it's a total different kind of black comedy.
No, it's but the point is, black comedy itself is subjective, and that's understood. But at the same time, it's a genre of certain movies that are relying on that horror elements, but having comedy throughout.
Okay, so if you take it and you make it like an Art the Clown situation, where it's like Terrifier, well, that's not that deep, not that deep. Yeah. But if you make it like a Terrifier, but you have moments of comedy in it, but at the forefront, it's meant to scare. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I meant. I meant, like, I'm not saying like I wouldn't want it to be atmospheric and scary with some cool ass effects and practical effects. Hopefully, we fucking get that, brothers. But fight him out and take your vitamins, say your prayers, and do your steroids. What? That wasn't part of Hulk Hogan's speech, but he did do it. But anyway, no. I'm saying I would like to see all of the horror tropes in it as well, like a cool atmosphere, scary stuff, intimidating, on the edge of your seat kind of moments, but then at the same time maybe even having the protagonist, like I said, the two ice cream truck delivery brothers in the original movie being the guys, like Shaun of the Dead guys. They're in the world where it's fucking crazy, weird, and scary things. Or like Odd Thomas with Anton Yelchin. That was a great fucking movie. That's on Netflix. I would
not call that a great movie.
I liked it, dude. I loved it a lot.
I liked it.
Odd Thomas, but it felt like the same thing. Odd Thomas, there were some scary moments in the movie. There were some scary scares happening in the movie, but at the same, in the middle of it, it was a dark comedy. Or my girlfriend's back or whatever with I don't know if that was Harry Potter or not, but there was another movie that was kind of like the same thing where the guy's girlfriend comes back from the dead and gets fucking nastier and deceased and shit. So, but again, I'm not against the idea of making Killer Klowns from Outer Space, either the sequel, the remake, or a TV show, more scary than the original one. I just don't want them to lose sight of what made that movie so popular, and what made it so popular. What people remembered was because of that.
I see what you're saying. I just think that movie exists and it's perfect as it is. So let's do something fucking weird with it and do something original rather than trying to recreate something that you can't really recreate. But what do you guys think about that? Comment down below. Which one of those versions of that movie do you want? I need to shut my fucking fridge.
I hope they have Ronald McDonald coming in there trying to give everybody goddamn Happy Meals and like farting on them or something. I don't know, like, because obviously you could disguise yourself as fucking Ronald McDonald coming in with like a Happy Meal and be like, "Oh, you want some Happy Meals?" So, you're not a Power Ranger, Michael. If you had a Power Ranger, you would be bitchhole. So, here we are, once again, doing an unboxing. Michael, where the fuck did you... Yes, Michael stabbed his vagina. It's happened.
We watched a movie. Yeah. We watched a movie. We watched it. We watched a movie. Yeah. You know what? We did a review. We watched a movie. We watched a movie.